smell was horrific. And I almost passed out from the heat, and I felt sick for like 2 hours afterwards. Clearly, I didn't hydrate enough beforehand. The whole experience was traumatizing. So they're like, you shouldn't do hot, you just do regular yoga. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I walk. Me and the dog, we walk. That's our deal. And I never heard of me. How'd you get hurt? I was walking. Nobody said ever. I stick with walking, and if my arms get flabby, less than 0, you know what's a given. I've seen my 83-year-old mother. It's going to happen. It's just when you get into it. And I just went, I have other battles to fight. I'm giving them that right away. So, after you get your plan, practice, 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 practice. Because that is what SWAT team does, right? It's what I do. Before I walk into any call, I take a deep breath, I get centered, and I kind of have some, what am I walking into? A 65-year-old that died of a heart attack? Is this a cancer patient who just got on hospice and they called 911 anyway because they weren't, I guess, clearing the stuff. Do I have a 13-year-old who killed himself, hung himself from the bunk bed while his mother was in the kitchen cooking? That actually happened, right? So I want to get myself ready for that call, and I run the past scenarios, because every call is different, but they all share something in common. So let me run that through my head and kind of have a game plan. So do some mock drills. Do some mock drills, because it is the practice that allows the SWAT team to move in that serpentine, and they're all fanning out and doing that thing, and creepy hand signals and all that stuff. So somebody can get a hole that goes in this way and comes out like that happened to be on your team. That's not cool in any way, shape, form, or manner. So that's how they do that. It's practice, 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 practice. And they like dressing up carrying guns. Just saying. But it's important for you guys to know. I mean, if you're asked, I'm not even going to tell you who this was. I'm good at keeping secrets. I'm really, really, really good. We had a detective one time in the old building down on Mays who was interviewing a suspect. I think it was a burglary, I'm not sure. Fortunately, it wasn't some like homicide. It wasn't the rogue killer. And there was no one in the room with him, and the camera started messing up, and the camera was in another room. So, because the lock thing didn't work well, and he didn't have anyone with him, this detective of many, many, many years of experience pulls the door to without pulling it all the way closed. So it's easily opened up. And he walks down the hall in a corner, and he's fiddling with the dials, and he looks up at the camera. Where's the suspect? Well, he just got up and walked out. And after he got done with walking, he started running. Real fast one. So we have a detective who's, they don't have radios, they don't have uniforms on. So he calls them dispatch on the phone, just like every other goober in the world, and says, guess what? It's a little awkward, but this is running somewhere, and I need some help. Now, everybody outside the building and dispatch knows what's going on. All the rest of us dorks, we have no clue. We're just wandering around our workspaces, and we have one person, Tracy Like, who used to be in VA, now she's in intelligence, starts running through whispering, all hunched over like this, literally. She's like, come at me, come at me, come at me. And I'm like, I just knew. I was like, why? You don't incite me into panic without a reason. I don't run. If you see me running, you should call 911. You should also start running as well. Start running. Something terrible is going down. We're being chased. It's on fire. There is a rabid dog. Something. Because Mary doesn't remember walk. Walking. You might trip, but that involved stairs or holes and stuff. Just regular walking, you will not get hurt. So she grabs me by my arm and is dragging me down to the supply closet, and I'm like, I'm not that closet, and we're hiding in the closet. Where we stayed for way longer than we needed to because he didn't hang around in the building, he left. Then I felt foolish. But I felt safe. Anyway, practice. So you don't look like an idiot. We kind of went over all of that already because I always get ahead of myself. Situational awareness, so where the doors are.
Know where the doors are.
If there's a lock on the doors, a punch a code or whatever, know how long it takes you to punch in the code. Don't forget the code. 'Cause you know what happens when you panic? You forget what you did. I know nothing. I don't even know what my name is. I'm busy panicking. So, practice, practice, practice. Situational awareness. Don't walk out to the last day when the pork chop doors on. Know the signs of someone who's losing their crap, and don't walk into that. Aggression or agitation. So again, we're talking about flapping, striding around. Particularly, I'm sure this happens to guys sometimes maybe too, but it's real common in females, and it is very much common in me. If I ever get really, really angry, really losing my business angry, I start to cry. Then I get mad at myself because I'm crying. And what comes out of me sounds very similar to a pig squealing. It gets high-pitched, and who can even, it's like a different language. No one can even understand it. And so this is what happens when people sometimes are agitated and they're shouting. But if you hear that, if it gets shrill, that's agitation, that's not anger. Most of the time, that's a frustrated, I can't get what I need or want, or no matter what I do, I cannot find success. Even if it is anger, it's that kind. Really angry, red face, stepping into your hula hoop shouting is another thing. And you kind of want to stand your ground a little bit, but you do not want to go full on confrontational. You don't want to cower. A good thing to do, I read this article where they did some testing on it that showed that it really there was efficacy for it, was standing 10 minutes a day with your hands on your hips. And I do that when an officer or a detective is ragging on me or browbeating me and it's not funny. You know, they're really trying to exert some kind of authority they don't have. I put one foot forward and I put my hands on my hips and they will stand right down. They're like, oh, that's a wife coming out of you. I see that whole wife thing. If I have to put my finger up in the air, they have lost all the ground they would ever have. Right? Because now what I'm telling you is back off. So we don't want to go full on wife with the finger thing, but what you do want to do is that right there, putting a foot out, even if you're standing like this, is your way of saying, don't cross that line. I have boundaries and I'm holding them. Then if you see even the slightest break in their physiology, even the slightest stand down, that's the time to make your exit. Don't wait. Don't wait till they escalate again. Even if you get 2 seconds of them taking some kind of step back from that one movement, that's your time to get out of a bad situation. Don't wait. Don't second guess yourself. And again, you just walk into the office, let them cool down. Maybe they have a really good reason for being all ramped up and angry. But that's not the time to try to speak reason to them, right? They're even though they're not in danger, they're in crisis, their body is responding from the sympathetic nervous system as though they were. They're fight or flight right now because they can't get what they need or what they want. And so they're ah. And you're going to have to discern from reading the signals whether what they're expressing is aggression or agitation. Because that's all you're dealing with all the time, I'm sure, right? If they're at your door, it's clearly things are going pretty south. right? That's just the facts. Listen to the statements, the words that they're using. Watch for finger pointing. You, and you meaning you guys, or you institutions, or you people, or you anyone other than them. And then you have victim statements. I can't, I've tried, and you'll see the hopelessness of they'll be doing, and they're trying to fling that off of them, but they can't because they're just immersed in it, in their own helplessness. And body posture, again, if they're really tense and stiff, they're like a spring. Have you ever seen those toys that you you just keep tightening and it's making the spring get tighter and tighter and tighter, and then when the thing takes off, or you crush one of those little fake snake things and put it in the can and open it and it pops out? That tense and stiffness, just keep in mind as you're practicing your safety plans. Watch that body English. Now watch that you don't mirror it. The more relaxed you can stay, the more relaxed you can stay while not leaving yourself easily pushed over. Right? Keep a foot offset. Keep that boundary out there. These are the power moves that I make. And then if I need to, sometimes on a call, we're all doing fine. Mom was there and Dad died of a heart attack. She just as sweet as she can be. She's just crying and carrying on or whatever. And then sister-in-law, cousin, pushy neighbor, whoever somehow manages to get in the house. Maybe she even called her. And she's going to come in there and try to tell us how this is going to roll. Nope. No, you're not. And that's when I'll put my hands on my hip if I need to, and I'll directly address them and say no. Sometimes you guys may have a child, a juvenile that's coming in crisis, and the bossy friend, right? Bossy friend that came with them is going to try to, and they are, their heart's in the right place. They're trying to help. They're trying to take control, and maybe they've been an accessory of help for quite some time, and they feel they've got quite an investment in that. So you don't want to be disrespectful to their investment, but at the same time, they've come up into your hood now, you're rolling the show, not them. So don't let them roll you over. At the same time, we don't want to alienate them. So I give them things to do. Voice modulation, again, that's a 911 trick. Sometimes it can go south and irritate people, but most of the time, ultimately it has the desired effect. If you just keep speaking calmly, even if they're shouting and you're talking, all they can see is your lips moving, and they might finally say, "I can't even hear you." That's because you won't stop shouting long enough to hear what I have to say. They have to get quiet in order to hear your response. They may not want to hear your response, in which case they weren't going to hear your response anyway. So as they get all of that out and get down to a place, but you never let up. Never let up. On a really hot call where you're concerned, you're trying to discern, are they in crisis? Right? They haven't had anything to eat. They just got kicked out of their house. Whatever the scenario might be. Or are they in danger? Is someone outside that's coming in? Is Dad chasing you? And this is a safe place? Those are questions to ask right away. So once you've determined that they're just in crisis, that's your job to bring them through the crisis. And these are voice modulations. Your posture is confidence, calm. You exude calm. Right? Don't join them in their freneticism. You get calm, and eventually it just rubs off on them. Sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes you just got to be patient. I had a lady come in the other day who had left Bluebonnet and had been sent to Hope Alliance to work on some of those issues before they felt like they could address some of the mental health issues. She wasn't wanting to take her meds. And anything I say about another agency is in no way, shape, form, or manner to be considered a criticism, because everybody is doing all that they can and doing a great job. And what we end up with sometimes are stories, right? Our victims have stories, and they're caught up in their stories, and sometimes they're a flat out lie. Sometimes parts of them are true, but the point is at that time they're telling a story. And that's all I have to go on, because that's all that's in front of me, is this person and their story. So take everything I said with a grain of salt. So her 30 days is up. And they were going to get her a ride down to the Salvation Army in a taxi, and she got mad and she left and headed towards, of all places, the Dell Diamond. That is the last place I would have headed. That's far away from civilization. And then the lady ended up giving her a ride to the police department. So through a series of unfortunate events, now she's on my doorstep. Her story, if true, parts of it obviously were, because I called Hope Alliance and I said, this is what she's telling me. She has no place to go. She's kicked out unceremoniously, which I know is not true. Blah, 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 blah. What happened? Well, she didn't want to take her meds. All day yesterday when she knew her time was up, she didn't want a safety plan. She wanted to sleep, so she slept all day, and as opposed to doing that, and today her time's up. And we offered to send her downtown. She didn't want to go. So she got help and left. So I'm like, okay. As I'm listening to her and watching all the signs, I go, okay, she's in crisis. She's not in danger. She's right here in the middle of the police department, but clearly she's in crisis. And as I am talking to her and say, look, you've had contact with these are my resources. You've already used up my resources, and I have nothing for you, so our option is to put you in a taxi and send you to the Salvation Army. And she put her head down in her hands and began to sob. All right, you got me. So I moved her into the interview room, and one of the things she had said is, they just want me to take meds, but no one will listen to me. No one will listen to me. So I told her, I sat down, and I said, tell me your story from the beginning. And that's what we did for 2 hours. For an hour, she told me her story, and then at the end of it, I knew that what I had was not my ordinary victim. What I had was a severe mental health issue. And that for me, as a human, and also as the coordinator of the police department of victim services, I could not, in good conscience, put her in a taxi and dump her out on Fifth Street. She did not have the mental faculties to handle that situation at this time. I mean, she could if she were in a better place. It's not like she was, having a psychotic break or schizophrenic meltdown. It wasn't even near that bad. But it was bad enough I just couldn't do that. So I called MOT, and this angel came out and was so gentle with her and listened to her story again. We ran through that. The call lasted about 2 hours. And he found a place for her, and then he promised personally that he would find a shelter for her to go to afterwards. And so that listen without interrupting. Sometimes they'll tell you what is the most important thing to them. And the most important thing to her at that moment was not even, where am I going to spend the night tonight? No one will listen to me. I get paid for listening, so I listened. And then I, at some point, shoved it into resource gear, and I called the only people that I knew, and I just told him, that's exactly what I said. I cannot in good conscience do this. can we pull a rabbit out of a hat? It's like, yes, we can, and that's exactly what he did. And I called her by her name over and over and over again, her first name. And established that rapport, and I just kept my voice really, really soft. Not patronizing, not baby talk, just really soft, really quiet, and just kind of held her in that space for a while. And she calmed right down. And then she did finally move into a more resourceful mode. She didn't want to take meds, and it turns out that she really liked taking some antidepressant starts with an A. I can't think of it. What's Abilify? But whatever they had her on made her not feel good. But the Abilify cost $80 a month. That was her whole gripe. I will take my meds, but I don't want to take those meds because they make me feel bad. Once upon a time, I took Abilify, and I felt okay and was able to function and thrive on that. But nobody ever let her get that far. I just never listened to her story. So, listen. Hierarchy of needs. So lots of times where we're trying to be is up here, because that's where we are, right? We're always pushing upwards, and we're okay. Down here, I'm the safest person in the world around work. A couple weekends ago, I flew to Florida to take a road trip with my mom because she doesn't fly. And on the way, they had the International Association of Police Chiefs conference at the Orlando Convention Center. So on the way home, you get cop dark, cop radar. I step on the plane, and at first I felt fear. It was interesting because I go cop.
What's fixing to go down?
And I was like, are these air marshals? Then I'm looking for other signs. You know, people that look like terrorists. And terrorists. You know, all sorts of terrorists everywhere. And mostly it was parents with children who had been to Disney and had Mickey Mouse ears on, but I saw terrorists, little tiny. So I always sit on purpose, slap at the back of the plane, not too close to the toilet because I don't want to do that. But 3 or 4 rows up, and I check out which side looks least terroristy, and then I grab the window. I don't care about being the first one on the plane. I don't want to be the first one on the plane. It gets hot and smelly in there. It's weird. And I don't want to worry about being the first one off the plane because there's all this pressure. Yeah, I'll just wait, and when y'all get off, I am not in that big a hurry. And so I get to the back of the plane, and I am not a snoop. But this guy next to me, clearly some kind of law enforcement guy, is doing this presentation thing on his laptop. And I found myself looking at his presentations. I'm trying to glean, what are you guys doing here? And so finally the stewardess says, this is the safest flight any of you will ever take in your entire life. The whole plane is full of cops, don't try anything. I breathed a sigh of relief, and then it dawned on me that my whole Facebook feed for the previous 5 days, it had not even made the connection with me. Troy Evans, Assistant Chief Troy Evans, and Ken Evans, who used to be a lieutenant with us and is now at Live Oak, as the police chief, have been saying about all the fun they were having in Orlando. I even said, get out of my town. What are you doing here? Not allowed to be here when I'm here. This town's not big enough for all of us. And it just hadn't dawned on me to put the two things together. I immediately went here. What? It's terrorists on this plane. They're not. No, they were all at a convention that you knew about, and now we're all flying home. And that guy right there, you recognize him because you ate a breakfast, police chief breakfast with him one time. That's the dude's making these. And he applied for a job. That's what we recognize. So, but most of the time we're not down in the bottom. We're all pretty well fed. We have regular jobs. We probably have sick days and vacation time. We have people that love and care about us. We're worried about the top 3. We're worried about basic. Finding actualization. These guys are maybe have not eaten. Maybe they haven't eaten, and maybe they're not safe. So, that's where I start. Once I asked her, I said, have you eaten? No. And it was so interesting because I go to here we're at the police department, and every other guy that passed by is built like Adonis, right? They're beautiful. They're paid to work out. It's mandatory that and we are allowed as civilians to work. We're paid to work out. Hurting here, like, oh, gee, that used to be attached to my shoulder, and now it's not anymore. That's not good. They're always hurting themselves, and they did that PX90 thing. When they come out of there, they're the color of her sweater. That's not healthy. They're gonna die. They're gonna die like a gorgeous corpse. This wrinkled old hag is gonna live to be 105. That's how that's gonna work. And I drink margaritas every Friday night. There is nothing good about this. So, once you've established whether or not they're in immediate danger, find out if they're in immediate danger. Somebody coming in after them is something, no? Okay, well guess what we have now? We have a crisis. We have a crisis. And we let them know it's a crisis and that they're not in danger. Then we ask them, if they're doing all hand flap and doing all kind of other crazy stuff, tweaking and whatever, are you on any medication? You might find that they normally take ADD medications and they haven't had it. If they've been missing from home for however long, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, maybe they haven't had their meds. Maybe they're on bipolar meds. Maybe they're on schizophrenia meds. And they haven't had access to their meds because they walked out on a flight and been back home. Parents don't even know where they are, right? So are we going to be able to have a really great, rich cognitive discussion with someone who's not on their bipolar meds and they're ramped up to here? I'm thinking not, but I don't know, maybe you're a miracle worker. I'm not. Another thing is, are you hungry? So I asked her if she's hungry, and she said, no. I said, have you eaten? Not since yesterday. Okay. So I go, this is the whole point, is where this started, and I never finished it. I go to the snack machine, and there are Pop-Tarts. I was angry. I was like, where's the granola bars? There used to be Nutri-Grain bars, and some, which is fake health, but still, at least we're making some pretense. No, these are strawberry Pop-Tarts with frosting on them. And they no longer have the apple juice and orange juice in there, not even Gatorade. It's just Cokes. So pop, whatever y'all call it, something so. But that's what I got. I got her Pop-Tarts and a soda, unfortunately. And I took it to her, and the first thing she did was put it in her bag. And that's kind of a hoarding thing, right? I'm hungry right now, and I haven't eaten since yesterday, but I can manage it. I don't know when I'm going to eat again. It's in my bag when I'm starving. But what I was trying to do was get her blood sugar up a little bit, right? If you haven't eaten since yesterday, how in the world are you going to make a good decision when your stomach is just going, oh, I'm so hungry? And everything is tanking, right? I have insulin-dependent diabetic nephew. And when I can see him crashing, he still refuses to go on the pump, so he's always trying to measure and guess and do and whatever, and it's constant struggle. But I've seen him tank, and this is what we do. We eat a sandwich and stuff, and everything gets better. So these are the things y'all are going to have to do for them, is figure out where are they on this thing. Are they hungry? Are they off their meds? Because we're not going to be able to shift into hardcore resource until you've addressed those lower two problems, safety and physical. And the last is, do you have a safe place to stay tonight? That's the first resource after the other two. Are you out of danger? You're safe now. And are you hungry, or what about the meds? And then, do you need a place to stay tonight? Once you've addressed, at least identified, if not actively addressed each one of those, now you can start talking to them about long-term resources. But what we tend to do sometimes, I know I do it certainly, is when I land on a call,